As we begin our study of John chapter 3, we immediately meet a man named Nicodemus. In verse 1, it says there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews, and he came to Jesus by night. Now, before we go any further, I want you to understand something about Nicodemus. He wasn't just an ordinary person. Nicodemus was a Pharisee. He was a member of the Sanhedrin, one of the spiritual elite in Israel. As such, he would have devoted his entire life to the study of the scriptures, to achieving the highest levels of theological training, and he would have become one of the spiritual leaders of the nation. In other words, this was the guy you go to if you have a question about God. And yet I believe that inside of Nicodemus was a sense that despite all of this, there was still something missing. And so he went to Jesus. The question is, why did he go by night? I think the answer to that is because he had everything to lose. Remember, Jesus had just cleansed the temple and had a major run-in with the religious authorities in Jerusalem. And so the second that Nicodemus aligned himself with Jesus, everything he had built in his life, his influence, his status, his position, would come crumbling down. And yet there was just something about this man that drew him. Nicodemus had seen other people rise up in Israel and claim to be Messiah before. All of them had turned out to be frauds. And this was the consensus of the religious leaders in Jerusalem about Jesus, that he was just another trickster. But what about the miracles? What about the genuine, real, unexplainable signs? Even Jesus' harshest critics couldn't deny the fact that he was doing real miracles. And so for Nicodemus, there was something about Jesus that just rang true. And so he went to see him. And he said, "Rabbi, we know that you're a teacher come from God, for no one could do the signs you're doing unless God was with him." And I think underneath Nicodemus' statement was a veiled question. But the funny thing is that Jesus just ignored his question and instead looked directly into Nicodemus' heart and saw the very thing that he needed to hear. "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." It's as if Jesus was saying, "Nicodemus, you've missed the most important part." All of his religious training, all of his achievement, all of his status hadn't given him the most important thing of all, a real relationship with God. And so Jesus is saying to Nicodemus, "Nicodemus, what you need is to be born again." And what was true for him is true for you and me as well. Because we can study the scriptures and memorize it and serve in our church and be on the elder board and understand theology and not know God. Because relationship with God is not about religion. It's about a new birth. And so the question we need to be asking ourselves today is not, do I go to church and do I read my Bible and do I understand theology? The question we need to ask ourselves is this: do I actually even know God?